Good morning, everyone. Are we missing it? Are we missing it? No. Maybe. Okay. Are we missing it? No, but maybe. And it's real important that we take a good look at that. The scriptures unfold it. It's something that's very forefront in our work and our walk with the Lord. Are we missing it? No, but maybe. Let's review this last couple of weeks very quickly. We can do that. Times 2 was last week. That is to say that we heard the 2 weeks in a row, make straight the way of the Lord. Profoundly, we make straight the way of the Lord by opening our heart, inviting God into every part of our heart by going to confession. Now, I thought it was just going to be times 2, but in God's way, He made it times 3. So we're supposed to have our reconciliation and penance service on Wednesday. Because of the snow, it's been reoriented towards tomorrow at 7 p.m. So instead of times 2, and again, times 2 meaning that the church finds it very important. And so she reiterates the message. Well, God put His exclamation point on it and said, no, times 3. Do you want to grow? Again, we might be struggling in the area of the purgative way. That is to say, we're committing grave sins, and we need the sacrament of reconciliation. Okay? So, by the way, you might be hearing me say, well, the sacrament of reconciliation and penance. Father, you're kind of reiterating things. You're just saying it twice. No, I'm not. That's actually the official name of the sacrament of reconciliation and penance. And it depends on what you're bringing to the sacrament in what you will experience. If we have a grave sin on our soul, we knew it was grave and we had full possession of our will, what we're going to experience is the sacrament of reconciliation. Okay? Taking the Lord's name in vain, missing Mass, any number of the grave sins types of things. We're going to experience the sacrament of reconciliation. So we might have lost the supernatural capacity of charity because of that sin. Now we're being reconciled to God. Maybe you're in the illuminative way where you're no longer struggling with any grave sins. And so what you experience then when you go to the sacrament is the sacrament of the devotion of penance. You're not reconciled because you're already reconciled. What you experience is an increase of sanctifying grace that helps you to grow in your relationship. So it's just like any other relationship. We go through, difficulties, mountaintop experiences, everything in between. But if you are in relationship with somebody for a long time, it doesn't matter. You can't plumb the depths of communion in that relationship. You continue to grow deeper and deeper if you're open. So it's the same thing with our relationship with God. We might not be committing any grave sins, but the more that we're open to looking at the subtleties that are getting in our way with our relationship with God, what we experience then when we go to confession is the devotional sacrament of penance, and it's an increase in sanctifying grace. There might be a few of us here, and when I say us, I mean like somebody else, that is in the unitive state. And very few people get to that, but it's the same type of thing. They're opening their heart in confession. They're already in union with God, but what they receive is an increase in sanctifying grace. So the church times 2 gives us that same message. Make straight the path of the Lord in your heart by confessing your sins in the sacrament of reconciliation and penance. As it is, in this particular year, we have a times 3 because of the snow. All right, I hope we see a lot of people come out at 7 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be 4 priests here hearing confessions. Now, did we miss it? No, maybe. What I'm saying there is the fact that we're here and we are in relationship with God. We know that God is with us. Whatever happens, his permissive will, his perfect will, we know that God is with us and we're advancing down that path. Same thing with David in the first reading. So David knows that God is with him. He wants to build the Lord a house. And that's, basically what anybody, whether they were pagan or they were from Israel or whatever, they wanted to build a house for their God. And so, he had this understanding, and the Lord said, no, you're not going to build the house. Solomon is going to build the house. So in some regards, David understood. In another way, he missed it. What he was saying, yes, Solomon would build a tremendous temple for the Lord, but what God was really saying is that there would be a time when God would enter us through the power of the Holy Spirit. Post the fact that there would be an incarnation, that God would come into the world and show us who God is and who we are, and that he would pour forth his Spirit in us. So did David get it? He did. He didn't miss it. Well, but he kind of did. And that's true for us too. Now we look at the gospel reading and we look at Mary. Now you have to understand that Mary was immaculately conceived to Joachim and Anne. Joachim and Anne had infertility issues. They were late in life. They had Mary very late. She's immaculately conceived. They give her to the temple. So Mary is preserved from any stain of sin from the moment of her conception. She has this clarity of mind, strength of will. She could sin, but she never does. She also gets a privileged education. They give her to the temple, and Mary goes and she gets this privileged education. So now, on top of that, Mary is a part of the Essene sect of the Jews. This sect had a great insight into the Messiah, where the other sects were looking at the Messiah coming and being this great political figure that would free Israel from the Roman occupation. That is not what the Essenes saw. They saw in the scriptures that the Messiah would be a suffering servant. So Mary has this great insight. Did she miss it? Okay, just like us, we kind of have this understanding of God's working in our life. She has this great insight, and yet maybe she did. She did. There's no way that she could have possibly understood that God would incarnate, that he would take flesh, that God would actually come to the world through her. And this is true for the way that God works in our life also. And we could either miss it or reject it. She did not. She said, "Let it be done unto me according to your word," when she came face to face with this reality. And that's the question. So all of us, are we missing it? No, we're not. We know that God is with us. We know that he's with us no matter if it's perfect will or permissive will, that he's right there unfolding his will for us. And yet there's still a temptation for us to reject or miss his will in our life. And really, Mary gives us this example. I can't help but to think of my own experience as I was moving into the Navy. And I was sure that I wanted to go to college. I didn't have the resources for it, so I decided to enter the military, and in particular the Navy. My thought was, though, I think God is calling me to Navy nuke program. I had everything all unfolded. It was clear to me that I was called to enter there and to gain money for college, to learn a good skill, and then I would continue on. But I was absolutely 100% sold on the Navy nuke program. The problem was I came up 4 questions short for qualifying for the Navy nuke program. was heavy in physics. I didn't have physics in high school, and I came up short. So there I was, and I knew he was with me. I knew he was calling me to move in this direction, but now we have some confusion. And so I say to the Lord, you've made a mistake. Okay, did you not realize? I mean, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so I'm missing it at this point. I'm missing what he's saying to me. You ever experienced that? Where things are kind of unfolding and you're like, well, you don't understand, Lord, you've made a mistake. Now, luckily I had some people in my life, and in particular my father, who talked me kind of through it, and I saw with clarity I'm supposed to move forward. I became an electronics technician instead of, being in the nuclear program. And you know what? If I ended up in the nuclear program, it would have been fine. I would have been on a nuclear-powered submarine or a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, and there would have been that. Hopefully, I would have still discerned my vocation. I pray. I know for sure if you're in those programs, you're 12 on, 12 off when you're out at sea, and otherwise, you're working long hours. I had no idea that what God was doing was removing me from that program and instead giving me 6 years of shore duty in Hawaii. Okay? And instead, I still worked, but I had all this time to go to college. I had all this time to start a Bible study, to run a confirmation program, to start a youth group, to be an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion, to read at Mass, to be a part of the choir, and to begin to really think, wait a minute, I think I'm called to be a priest. See, there could have been a real moment where I would have missed it. See, God's desire for us and His will for us, we understand. He's right here with us. We know whatever happens, He's right in our midst. But do we fully understand what He has for us? The answer is no. The perfect human person, Mary, who was conceived without sin and had all of this clarity and all of this education, she still didn't understand the fullness of what God had for her. How could you and me personally and possibly have a fullness of understanding of what God has for us? We don't. And that's the point. But we know that He's right here in our midst. He's walking with us. He's going to be there every step of the way. As things unfold, whether it's His permissive will or His perfect will for us, He's right there with us. Let's take the disposition that Mary has shown us an example. Lord, be it done unto me according to Thy word. Unfold it for me. I trust You, and I'm going to follow You.